Imagine looking at your bank account and realizing you are broke, but you have absolutely nothing to show for it. No new car, no luxury vacation, no asset that appreciates. Just a closet full of clothes you wore once, a drawer of gadgets you forgot about, and a lingering sense of anxiety. In 2026, people are not just losing money because inflation is high or wages are stagnant. Those are factors, sure. But the real reason most people are bleeding wealth right now is that their feelings have taken hostile takeover of their wallets. We have entered the era of vibe-based budgeting and doom spending, where every swipe of a card is actually a microtherapy session. And the most dangerous part is that it feels good while you are doing it. It feels like self-care. But I have run the numbers, and this form of self-care is the single biggest threat to your financial freedom. Today, we are going to dissect why your brain is wired to keep you poor and exactly how to rewire it. The opportunity here is massive. If you can learn to see the emotions behind your money moves, you can keep the comfort and joy while cutting the regret and the debt. This isn't about living on rice and beans or never buying a latte again. It is about understanding that the budget battle in 2026 is not you versus Starbucks. It is you versus your own nervous system. Before we get into the heavy psychology and the specific protocols to fix this, I want to ask for a small investment of your time. If you want to make money work for you instead of against you, hit that subscribe button. It is the best return on investment you will get all day. Now, let's look at why smart people make such irrational money decisions. For decades, traditional finance advice has operated on a lie. The lie is that spending is a cold, rational calculation. We assume that when you buy a jacket or book a trip, you have done a cost-benefit analysis. You have looked at your income, looked at the price tag, and made a logical choice. But psychologists and money experts now agree that this is almost never what happens. Spending is rarely about math. It is a form of emotional communication and mood regulation. Money is tied to identity, status, safety, and self-esteem. That means almost every time you tap your phone to pay, there is a feeling behind it. Maybe it is stress from work. Maybe it is boredom on a Tuesday night. Maybe it is the fear of missing out because everyone on your feed is in Japan. We like to think we are accountants managing a ledger, but in reality, we are just humans trying to regulate our emotions with a credit card. Recent research on everyday spending across multiple countries found something fascinating. People do not just buy things, they buy states of mind. You are not buying a scented candle, you are buying comfort and control in a chaotic apartment. You are not buying a new watch, you are buying the feeling of being successful and caught up with your peers. When those emotional needs are strong and unspoken, they easily override logic. I have seen this in the data time and time again. A person will have a goal to pay off $5,000 in debt, but then they have a bad week at work. Suddenly, the long-term goal of being debt-free feels abstract, but the immediate relief of a nice dinner or a new gadget feels real. The emotional need for relief creates a blind spot where the math just disappears. This leads to choices that directly conflict with what you actually want for your life. You want financial security, but you spend on fleeting dopamine hits. In other words, your logical planning brain is slow and lazy. It takes effort to engage it. Your emotional brain, however, is fast and loud. When you are tired or stressed, the emotional brain wins by default. This is why you can be a genius at your job, manage complex projects, and still find yourself wondering where all your money went at the end of the month. You are not bad at math. You are just losing a fight against your own biology. And in 2026, the marketing world has figured out exactly how to weaponize that biology against you. So step one isn't to cut up your credit cards or download a budgeting app. Step one is to admit that your wallet is an emotional organ. If we don't start there, no amount of spreadsheets will save you. We need to look at specific behaviours that have emerged recently. Things like retail therapy, doom spending, and treat math. These aren't just buzzwords, they are specific psychological traps that are draining your net worth. And the first one we need to tackle is the idea that shopping can fix a bad day. You might be thinking, Tom, buying a shirt to feel better isn't going to bankrupt me. And you would be right, if you only did it once. But the research shows that using money as a painkiller creates a physiological dependency. The relief you get from spending is real, but it is temporary. When the bill shows up, the stress returns, often doubled. So what do you do to handle that new stress? You spend again. It is a spiral, and there is a new, darker version of this that has taken over in the last few years. Let's talk about retail therapy. It is not just a meme, it is a documented psychological strategy. A recent literature review shows that people use shopping to repair bad moods and enhance good ones. Studies find that shopping can temporarily reduce sadness by giving you a sense of control and anticipation. When you click buy, you are taking action. You are changing your environment. That feels powerful. Hedonic or fun purchases are often chosen specifically to manage emotions, not needs. A new outfit after a breakup. An expensive dinner after a bad week. That voice in your head saying, I deserve this, is very convincing. And strictly speaking, it works. For about 20 minutes. You do feel better. But a newer trend has emerged in the 2020s called doom spending. This is spending impulsively in the face of economic anxiety, climate fears, or political chaos. Instead of tightening budgets when the news gets scary, some people respond to a frightening future by thinking, nothing matters. I might as well enjoy now. Psychology today describes doom spending as buying things without much thought as a coping mechanism for uncertainty and dread. It feels like reclaiming joy in a broken world. The logic is seductive. If the world is burning, why save for retirement? But here is the cold math. If the doom actually arrives in the form of job loss or inflation spikes, having zero savings makes the disaster personal. You are trading your future resilience for a momentary feeling of rebellion. This behaviour leaves you with less savings and less resilience precisely when you need it most. It is a paradox. We spend to feel safe from the chaos, but the spending makes us more vulnerable to the chaos. Over time, using shopping as an emotional painkiller creates that cycle I mentioned earlier. Stress leads to spending, which leads to short relief, which leads to money problems, which leads back to stress. The bill always comes due. The dopamine hit is free, but the product is not. And while doom spending is about the big, scary world, there is another mathematical trick you play on yourself every single day regarding the small stuff. The key here is to recognize the trigger. Are you buying this because you need it, or because you are trying to numb out the news? If it is the latter, we need to find a cheaper way to cope. But before we get to the solutions, we have to address the most common way smart people justify being broke. It is called treat math, and it is silently destroying your ability to build wealth. Most people stop here and think, okay, I will stop buying expensive luxury goods. But that is not where the money is leaking. The real damage is happening in $5 and $10 increments that your brain refuses to register as real money. If you ignore this next part, you can have a perfect investment portfolio and still live paycheck to paycheck. Treat math is the mental gymnastics of constantly justifying small indulgences. It sounds like this. It is only €7. I have had a hard week. Or, this subscription is just $10 a month. I need it for self-care. Each purchase seems tiny, Your brain categorizes it as a rounding error. But behavioral researchers note that when an expense is framed as small and recurring, like a coffee or a streaming service, the mental pain of paying is lower. You underestimate the cumulative cost massively. You do not see $1,000 a year, you see $10 today. This is dangerous because it bypasses your internal alarm system. This leads to what is being called vibe-based budgeting. Instead of planning based on numbers and goals, people let feelings dictate spending categories. You might say, I want my life to feel abundant, or I do not want to feel restricted like my parents did. Without guardrails, vibe-based budgeting often becomes code for I will spend what feels right and hope it works out. Essentially, it is no budgeting at all. You are flying blind, trusting your feelings to land the plane. But feelings are terrible pilots. They do not know your bank balance, and they certainly do not care about your compound interest. The result is that treat math can easily drain hundreds per month, often more than someone is investing for their future. You are trading your financial freedom for a series of coffees and subscriptions that you barely even enjoy. It is death by 1,000 cuts. The problem isn't the treat itself, it is the lack of awareness. When you let vibes dictate the math eventually fights back. And usually, it fights back in the form of credit card debt. But why does it feel so good to ignore the math? It turns out there is a chemical reason for that. We need to put hard edges on those soft vibes. But before I show you how to structure a budget that actually allows for treats without ruining you, we need to understand the weapon that tech companies are pointing at your head. Because in 2026, they have figured out how to bypass the pain of paying entirely. This is where conventional wisdom says you just need more willpower. I am going to tell you that willpower is useless against the technology we are up against. Banks and fintechs have designed a system where spending money feels like nothing, but the debt feels like everything. If you use Buy Now, Pay Later, listen closely, because you are likely spending way more than you think. Neuroscience shows that spending activates reward circuits in the brain, particularly when purchases are immediate, novel, or social. Buying something you want triggers dopamine, especially when the reward is immediate, like a digital download or same-day delivery. This reinforces the behavior, making emotional spending a habit loop. It works just like a slot machine. You pull the lever, you get a prize, you feel good. But the tech environment in 2026 supercharges this. One-click checkouts strip away the physical pain of handing over cash. Studies show people spend more when paying with cards or digital tools because the transaction feels less real. And then there is Buy Now, Pay Later. BNPL is emotion-friendly debt. Research from 2024 and 2025 finds that adopting BNPL leads customers to spend about 6 to 7% more on average than they otherwise would. That is a tax on your own psychology. Deferred payment reduces the psychological pain of spending, making consumers 13% more likely to buy hastily. Breaking payments into small installments makes expensive items feel affordable. It converts a scary €200 purchase into a chill €50 treat. It is perfectly aligned with treat math. You are not buying a $200 item, you are just paying $50. It feels innocent, but it correlates strongly with impulse buying. Add social media to this mix and you have a perfect storm. Social feeds amplify emotional spending by showing lifestyle highlights. A 2024 review notes that shopping is heavily influenced by internal emotional states and external stimuli like ads. When you scroll while tired, lonely, or anxious, that cocktail of triggers is a marketer's dream. You are seeing people living their best lives, and you can buy a slice of that life with 4 easy payments. It is not just about the item, it is about social validation. It provides likes, compliments, and a sense of belonging. But again, these brain systems are fast and emotional. Your logical brain doesn't stand a chance unless you deliberately slow down. The hidden cost here isn't just money, it is mental bandwidth. People who regularly overspend due to emotional triggers experience more stress, anxiety, and shame about money. This leads to avoidance. You stop checking your statements because you don't want to see the damage. This lets small leaks become big problems. So, how do we stop the bleeding? We need a protocol. We need a way to intervene between the feeling and the purchase. The first step is incredibly simple, but almost nobody does it. You need to name the feeling before you swipe. Psychologists recommend keeping a money and mood journal. For just a few weeks, write down what you spent, how you felt before, and how you felt after. This makes invisible triggers visible. You might realize, I always buy takeout when I am overwhelmed at work. Or, I online shop late at night when I feel lonely. Simply naming the feeling creates a small pause. It switches your brain from autopilot to manual control. You can say, I am not hungry, I am just anxious. That one sentence can save you thousands a year. Next, identify your top 3 emotional triggers. Counselors consistently highlight stress, loneliness, boredom, and FOMO. Pick your personal big 3. Maybe you spend when you feel behind your friends in life. Maybe you spend when you are bored scrolling at night. Once those are named, you can connect concrete strategies to each one. This brings us to the concept of the non-spending menu. If you are shopping for control, go organise a drawer. If you are shopping for comfort, call a friend or cook a meal. You need a list of 10 to 20 activities you can do instead of opening a shopping app. Replace the retail therapy with actual coping tools. Now, let's fix the budget itself. We are not going to eliminate emotions, we are going to budget for them. I want you to build guilt-free fun money into your plan. Say 5 to 10% of your income is explicitly allowed for treats, vibes, and emotional splurges. This reduces the sense of deprivation that fuels binges. It forces treat math into a fixed, visible box. You can spend that money on whatever you want, no questions asked. But once the box is empty, it is empty. This is vibe-aligned budgeting. You are designing a budget that funds the future you want and the feelings you genuinely value, rather than just leaking money on random impulses. Finally, you must add friction back into your spending. Tech has removed it, so you have to put it back on purpose. Install speed bumps. Use the 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases over $50. Wait a day. Research shows that delays reduce impulsive buying by giving emotions time to cool. Remove stored cards and one-click buttons. Make yourself type the numbers every single time. And implement a strict BNPL rule. Never use it for wants. Only ever for planned, budgeted needs. Think of this like installing guardrails on a mountain road. You do not have to be a perfect driver if the environment makes it hard to go over the edge. Here is the beautiful part. The same emotions that drive overspending can be harnessed to build wealth. Use anticipation for saving. Visualize your debt-free date or your emergency fund goal with the same excitement you have for a trip. Make investing emotionally rewarding by tracking your progress bars. Shift from emotional spending to emotional saving. Use pride and relief as your drivers, rather than shame or fear. And remember, sometimes emotional spending is a symptom of a deeper problem, like depression or trauma. If you can't stop, it is okay to seek professional help. You are not weak, you are human. In 2026, emotional spending is normal. But it doesn't have to be in charge. Once you understand that your wallet is being pulled by feelings and algorithms, you can start building systems where emotions are heard, but math makes the final call. Every euro not hijacked by your feelings is a euro that can fund your actual life priorities. If you found this helpful, do me a favour. In the comments, tell me one emotional trigger you have identified today. Let's build a bit of data down there so we can see we aren't alone in this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.